Today I'm gonna take you on a wild ride. Have you ever thought, what if God was one of us? Well, hold on to your seats because today we're gonna explore just that. Imagine a world where God is just like you and me. He's got a 9 to 5, he's got bills to pay, and he's got a dog that won't stop barking. But the twist? He's still got all the powers. So let's say God walks into a bar. What do you think happens? Well, the drinks are on the house, and if he wants to turn water into wine, he's got the power to do so. But you know what they say, with great power comes great responsibility. So let's hope he doesn't go in a wild bender. Now let's say God is our boss. Do you think he'll be a good boss? Well, he did create the universe in 6 days, so he's got a pretty good track record. But if he's like any other boss, he'll probably just ask us to work on Sundays. Or imagine getting a call from the big guy upstairs saying, "Hey, I've got this problem with my computer. Do you think you can help me out?" And you're just like, "Sure thing, God, I'll be right over." So, if God was one of us, would he still perform miracles? Absolutely! But instead of walking on water, he might just ride a hoverboard. And instead of feeding the 5,000, he might just order a pizza. The possibilities are endless. But what would happen to all the religious institutions? Well, that's a good question. Maybe God would still visit his churches, but instead of preaching, he'd be there to offer life advice and tell dad jokes. And instead of having holy wars, we'd have religious comedy battles. And what about all the prayers? Well, imagine receiving a text message from God that says, "Thanks for the prayers, I got it." That's customer service at its finest. Let's not stop there. Let's keep exploring this idea. So, if God was one of us, what kind of person would he be? Well, he'd probably be the coolest guy in town. He'd have all the answers to life's big questions, and he'd be the life of the party. But he'd also have to deal with everyday problems, like trying to find a parking spot at the mall on a Saturday. And what about all the natural disasters? Well, if God was one of us, he'd probably have to take time off work to go and fix them. And instead of using his powers, he'd have to rely on his handyman skills. Can you imagine God on a ladder, trying to fix a leaky roof? And finally, what about death? Well, if God was one of us, he'd probably have to deal with his own mortality. Can you imagine God saying, "Well, it's been a good run, but it's time for me to go"? That would be one for the history books. In conclusion, the world would be a much different place if God was one of us. But at the end of the day, he's still the all-powerful, all-knowing deity that has always been. So let's just enjoy the idea for what it is. A fun thought experiment.